Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming on here. We are live from the Lake Chapala area. That thing that you see in the background there, that's not our background right here in our home office, but that is the background from our patio right downstairs. And that's about what it looks like right now as we speak. Things are very chill. I've got a little puppy half asleep on my lap. This is our new puppy that we rescued just a couple weeks ago from the thermal spa. Actually, there were a bunch of little puppies back there. We'll tell you the whole story about how we got this little guy later. He had a hurt little paw, and we nursed him back to health, and now he's doing really good. But as you can see from us and from also a little Rocky here, everything is pretty kosher. There's not a lot really happening. A lot of people have been asking us, friends and family, they've been sending us, text messages and emails. I think you got a couple dozen in the last 2 days from
Instagram,
people.
Facebook, email, comments. It's been nonstop the last 2 days as this news broke out in Mexico that the Mexican military killed El Mencho and many of his, management, many of the C-suite of the cartel Nueva Generación Jalisco, and then chaos kind of ensued in Mexico. So we've gotten lots and lots of DMs from Instagram, from Facebook, from our personal Facebooks, our families blowing up our phones. So we didn't get a chance to come on live the last couple days. We were with our Airbnb guests, our neighbors, things like that. We finally got a chance, so we decided to come on
When we
live.
didn't have internet, there's
That's
another
true, we didn't have
situation
internet.
where, and sometimes our main internet does go down just occasionally, and it happens a lot, on weekends, on Sundays, where maybe once a month it'll go down. Most likely, what happened is it was one of those things, but because of the chaos on the streets and some of the roadblocks, they couldn't actually go to fix it. So we were without our main internet for a couple days, and we finally got our Starlink working as well after a few hours of fiddling around with that. We were able to get a Starlink working, but it's been just a little bit of chaos with everything, and staying home and internet issues. So now we're finally able to go live. Shannon says we're in Zapopan. How's everything there, Shannon? We'd love to hear. We actually lived in Chapalita for a few years before coming down here, and from what we hear from our friends that are in Guadalajara, everything is more or less
slowly getting back to
normal. Yeah. There's a couple roadblocks in other cities around Guadalajara, but from what we've heard, most of the roadblocks were removed. And by roadblocks, I just mean the remnants of like those narco bloqueos, which is where they had people burning buses and things like that. That did happen for sure, but it was mainly removing the debris of that. The actual roadblocks. She said they're in Chapalita as well.
Yeah, Chapalita is a great neighborhood.
But the actual roadblocks of like armed people there, I mean, that literally just lasted as long as they weren't hurting individuals. There was one death that was reported that we heard about, which was like an innocent bystander who was just in the crossfire. But that was one civilian death in the entire country. When we're talking like 7 different states, 7 or 8, I think, different states involved, not just Jalisco. And like, they're not going after civilians. They're definitely not going after tourists. They're definitely not going after Americans.
So what did happen? Because we've had people sending us videos that have been debunked. Like they said there was a shooting in the
Let's talk about what
airport.
Didn't happen maybe first.
Yeah, let's talk about what did not happen, because we've seen some crazy things, even on American news this morning, sharing videos that have been debunked already in Mexico by people here, by the airports, by the government. A lot of these videos and photos going around social media, and we even see American news showing it as of this morning. We've seen both Fox and CNN showing a video that has been totally debunked as this did not happen. And we can tell you from eyewitness accounts that it did not happen, which is why we wanted to come on here. So we wanted what did not happen.
Yeah.
Let's start there, because there's been a lot of things circulating around going crazy that the entire country of Mexico is on fire. And
no.
It's gotten very crazy.
People were saying like that they were taking people hostage. That was not true.
That did not happen.
We have not heard a single confirmed report of that happening. People were saying there was a shootout at the airport
in Guadalajara.
There's a video circulating there that, again, the Grupo Aeroportuario del Pacífico, which is the company that manages both Vallarta and Guadalajara Airport, I believe, and several others throughout the country. They already put out a statement saying that that was not true. That was fake news. Most likely that was either AI or possibly a video from many, many years ago. If there, I've never personally actually heard of any shootouts, at least
in the airport
in modern times in the airport. But that had absolutely nothing to do with the events of Sunday. That was completely fake news. They were not lighting any planes on fire. That was also disproven. And in fact, I listened because I'm a pilot in training. So I listened to the air traffic control radio, even that very Sunday in the afternoon, like after, the initial shock of hey, there's, cars and trucks going up in flames. That definitely happened around the airport, like outside of it on different, highways and roads. There were a couple trucks and buses that they lit on fire. But there weren't any people in them. They evacuated the people first. That was mainly because they're trying to set up blockades so that the military would get slowed down, and so they were trying to do a show of force, which is like understandable. But in terms of people being injured or kidnapped or anything like that, other than that one confirmed death that we've heard about, and obviously tell us if we're missing any information, if there's anything updated. There were about 26 deaths of different members of the military, of the Mexican military, as well as at least 8 confirmed deaths of the cartel members themselves, including El Mencho. So that's what we have heard so far. And again, we're on the ground here. We're near Jocotepec, where there were a couple events, like they burned a couple stores like OXXO, and I believe there were also some banks that were burned down.
Yeah, I think it was an OXXO, a bank, and they did close off the road going into Guadalajara. So from the information that we have so far, and this is from the social media pages of the governments around Lake Chapala, Ajijic, no damage, not surprising. I think San Antonio, I didn't hear about anything, or Riberas or El Chante, we're in El Chante, no damage in El Chante that we have seen. We did see in Jocotepec, because we can see Jocotepec from where we live, we did see plumes of smoke Sunday late in the afternoon, and then it was confirmed that a bank had been burned, an OXXO had been burned, and they had blocked the highway that goes to Guadalajara. And then the same thing happened in Chapala. So there was like an OXXO, a bank, and they blocked the highway going to Guadalajara. So were there narco bloqueos? Yes.
Yeah, and we did our basic precautionary stuff. Like I mentioned, we had a backup internet with Starlink, because we don't know if the internet being down in certain parts of the town was something that was intentional, if they cut like the fiber on purpose, or if it was just a result of there being fires on the road that melted the cables.
We don't know if the government did it to halt communications.
I don't think so. I would probably say no.
Probably not.
That's we're not in Iran.
Yeah,
that's not a thing that they do here.
Probably not.
It was probably a combination of fires on the road that took out some of the cables, or even some other unrelated incident that took out total play in the area, all the way from at least here all the way to Ajijic that we've been hearing about. But the fact that there were road closures and there was a mandatory stay at home warning, and that obviously the technicians were not going to go out to fix it, that didn't help get it restored. So now I think it came back, was it this morning or yesterday?
Last night.
Yeah, last night it came back. So it actually, even with everything said, it only took them 24 hours to restore internet to our part of the town here. And like I mentioned, we had our backup internet set up for at least emergency communication. We had a Starlink, and then we had an extra cellular modem that we lended to our Airbnb guests. So we also were able to allow to stay for a couple nights more here, because they also didn't want to get on the road, which is reasonable. So we had backup internets, and we went to get some food as well, just in case on Sunday, right when we started hearing that shit was going down. I went to the Farmacia Guadalajara, which turned out to be like the last place open on Sunday. And I stocked up on what I could that was healthy and that was shelf stable, which is always a good recommendation. I mean, if you're in the U.S., if you're in Mexico, if you're in anywhere, I honestly would be even more inclined to take preparatory measures in places like the U.S. because of a much higher likelihood of civil unrest than in somewhere like Mexico, to be honest. There's a lot more protests and civil unrest and things in the U.S. So I got a few $100s of cash out just in case I would need cash if the systems were down for some reason. I was able to get some bags of protein, some cornflakes, some emergency medicines, like the basic, anti-diarrhea,
all to say
pain
we
medicine.
were prepared for at least a few days. We honestly thought, oh, this is going to be like 3 or 4 days like this. That's what we were thinking. But kudos to Mexico, kudos to the federal government and the state governments. Everything was cleared within 24 hours.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Which is pretty impressive. In the United States, they can't even stop some unruly riots or protests
they still have
in 24
entire
hours.
cities there that are
they still have entire
occupied.
cities that are having problems. Yeah. So kudos, because we did not expect that at all. I think both of us generally, no matter what country we're in, we just expect incompetence from governments. Maybe we're jaded. Mm-hmm. We just expect it. But on Monday morning, they had already announced that there were no narco bloqueos anywhere in the country. I think Michoacan by Sunday night had said, we've got it all under control. We're cleaning the roads.
Yeah, things are already back open.
Things are already back open. As of today, there is no more code red.
I think the schools might still be closed.
I don't know
either they're
about
opening
the
today or they were opening today or tomorrow.
I know yesterday they still kept the schools closed, basically. So basically what happened was like everything happened on Sunday, right? Where they took this guy out, El Mencho. And if you don't know about El Mencho, from what we've researched, this was like the #1 wanted cartel leader, not just in Mexico, not just in the United States, but in the entire world. This guy had operations in 39 different countries. So it was a big deal, but it was a very huge shock. Like no one expected this to happen. And the way that we found out what was going on is because we actually had our AC guy coming in from Guadalajara because we needed maintenance on our mini splits at the house. And then we were installing mini splits in the office. And he sends us a WhatsApp and he's like, hey, there's narco bloqueos on the road. I got to turn around. And we're like, what? And then suddenly that's like the exact moment that the internet went down for like everybody.
on the whole
block, on the whole complex, all our internet went down. So we're like, what is happening? And then we started getting calls from people in Chapala. And then we started piecing things together. And then we found out that, hey, at 1:00 on Sunday, all businesses are closing. Everybody go home. It's a code red.
Yeah, that's about the time where I was at the pharmacy.
Yeah.
And we were probably one of the last people to be able to buy stuff before I don't know if they shut it down right away, but they shut the doors and you had to, I guess, order through like a window.
Yeah. In the pharmacy yesterday, it was open, but you had to like order through a window and it was very hush, hush, whatever. So anyway, by Sunday night, a lot of governors were already saying, hey, we're starting to get things under control. With the narco bloqueos, it's starting to calm down. And then by Monday morning, the authorities made the announcement, hey, there's no more narco bloqueos anywhere in the country, but we're still advising that everybody stay home. We're cleaning stuff up, and then everything's going to reopen again on Tuesday. We're here, it's Tuesday, everything's reopening on Tuesday, at least in the Lake Chapala area. We know of businesses that were open as of yesterday, Monday. So basically what we saw from Jocotepec and what we saw from Chapala, the municipal governments, was that if you want to open on Monday, you are more than allowed to open on Monday. You don't have to, you're allowed to if you want to, but stay out of the way in terms of the road cleanups and the crews and all that kind of stuff. Just stay out of the way.
I want to talk a little bit also about the sensationalism, especially in the news in the US. CNN and even Fox News are posting videos that have already been confirmed false. Like they're still streaming them and posting them today. Like people running, around the airport, like there's a shooter in there, like all these other things. I don't know if I'm allowed to even say that on YouTube. They
probably
don't
not
like that. But yeah, YouTube tends to heavily censor anything related to what we're talking about. So hey, whatever. But we got to bring you guys the truth. So yeah, there a lot of the news media in the U.S. and other parts of the world are still like showing videos that were already confirmed false. They're making it very sensationalistic.
They're making it seem like Mexico is like this every day. You've been in
Mexico, not only that, but they're saying, oh, Americans are all like trying to get out of the country now and they're trapped. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, we still have people flying here to do, appointments for their visas. We still have guests coming to the Airbnb. There's plenty of people right now flying to Puerto Vallarta. They've already it's basically cleaned up. There wasn't that much damage done other than a few stores and, like I said, some burning cars on the road because they were trying to block the roads.
Many of the images that were coming out of Puerto Vallarta have already been proven to be false.
Most of them in Guadalajara too. It was just a cartel throwing basically a tantrum, after their top guy got caught and thinking that they could derail the government and also thinking that it would work to instill, fear in people of leaving their houses and everything else, because historically that has worked in the past. Like the government would essentially back down if the cartel did things like that. And what they're finding is now it's not really working. And what we're seeing is that they're likely also going into hiding, or at least getting a lot, lower profile. And that's another reason why we're not likely to see any attacks like this in the future. I think if I'm talking about, just the intentionality here, they were getting, too big for their britches, essentially. So these guys were getting, we're just getting way too big for comfort. And between the U.S. intelligence and Mexican military, they said, you know what, we have to take them out. Because is it the best thing in the world to be at war with a cartel? No, absolutely not. But it's better at least to have them lay lower or fragment and fight each other than it is to have a lot of concentration of power.
We got an interesting comment. We heard what sounded like either bombs or gun blasts that went, I assume, on for a few minutes, figuring it was the military practicing about a half hour before sunup, around 6:30 a.m. on Sunday, which we thought odd. Interesting that you bring that up.
Yeah, those are probably like Molotov cocktails that they were throwing in stores or something.
Yeah, no, because she says this was before they even. I'm not sure of the timeline. All I know is that at like 11 a.m., which is when we found out everything, chaos had already broken out.
Yeah, but maybe they were already doing stuff on the streets.
I don't know. What I found really interesting was like they must have coordinated with the governor of Jalisco, and he must have known that this was happening because they already have extra troops here. They have extra law enforcement in Jalisco right now. He did the announcement last night. Nobody worry. We've got extra military from other states. Mm-hmm. That are in Jalisco. I mean, they cleaned up and locked it down fast.
Yeah.
So it was a very coordinated effort. But I think
they knew what was about to happen.
And they knew what was about to happen.
When they got that guy.
But I will say, like, the general consensus is just like shock because nobody saw this coming at all. So that I think that's the general consensus is just shock. Like what they did, like everyone was very surprised that the Mexican government and the Mexican military even did this. A lot of people are trying to figure out why. We'll leave that up to the experts. It's not for us to figure out. We just wanted to let you guys know, like, we're safe, our guests are safe, clients are safe, friends and family that we know in the area are safe. We did see a couple of burnings of businesses, but a lot of times people on the internet were saying like, they're just torching everything. And no, that's not the case. So usually the way that it works from our understanding is what they do decide to vandalize is very strategic. So for example, you have
It's not like in the US.
No, it's not like in the US where like a riot happens and literally everything's on fire and they can't get the city under control for weeks and they have to send in the National Guard. It wasn't like that at all. What happened here was they took out El Mencho, which was like the top guy. They also took out the guy who did operations for that entire cartel. And this was a cartel that wasn't just dangerous in Mexico, but some people think it's one of the most dangerous organized crime organizations in the world. So they took out like 7 of the top people, basically, which also is very unusual. Usually they just capture them, but whatever. And in the last few weeks, they were beefing up security at Galleria Mall on Rafael Sancio. Yeah, they've been planning this for a while, but it caught everybody by surprise. No one knew this was coming or that it was going to happen. And then I guess they had captured the guy, but they tried to like break the guy free. And then it turned
his own people tried to
break him free. And then it turned into a shootout between these guys and the Mexican military special operations forces, which are the ones who carried it out. And then they killed him and a bunch of other people while they were at it. And then that's when really the cartel people started throwing a hissy fit. And then essentially what they do is that they will block roads. And they will burn down businesses that are usually OXXOs or like a bank, because those are the things that mess with logistics in the country. And then
it's a show of force.
It's a show of force.
Life, more difficult so that the people will urge the government to basically leave them alone.
Yeah. So, and then the entire point from our understanding is to try and stop the military or law enforcement from advancing on them. So that's why you saw like in 8 different states, they were blocking highways. and trying to block highways and things like that because they were trying to stop the law enforcement and the military from advancing on them during this operation. But yeah, like I said, in 24 hours, Mexico had it cleaned up, and I was shocked. I was not expecting that personally. But the next morning, they're like, "Hey, all the highways are open, all the airports are." I think the only airport that closed was Vallarta because Guadalajara was actually operating as normal the entire time. He was listening to air traffic control.
Yeah, it was the airlines themselves that canceled some flights just as a precautionary measure, especially some American and Canadian airlines. That happened, so they canceled flights, and then a lot of them got rescheduled for like today. I think they even had some flights yesterday as well, but they're rescheduling them for throughout the week. But flights are back, they're operational, they're resuming. I mean, I can even look at like the current, you know, if you take a look at FlightAware, I mean, this is what we were doing even on Sunday, and they still had flights going in and out. But right now, there's about 6 planes in the area of Guadalajara, either taking off or landing, like this particular moment. So flight operations are completely resumed there. I believe this is Vallarta as well. There's a plane taking off. I don't know if they have international flights coming into Vallarta today or not.
They said Vallarta was fully operational.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Yeah. There's one actually coming from Toronto that's landing today. So it looks like even international flights have resumed actually into both airports as of today, or in a lot of cases even as of yesterday. So it's really just like it was like a half day kind of thing where things are a little under control, and they completely tapered it down and got it under control. Like we said, within 24 hours, it's already almost cleaned up, like including the wreckage and everything else. This is not like hey, you know, we're in grave danger, people are in danger, they're going to start attacking civilians. Like that's just news sensationalism that they're doing, and especially in the US, because frankly, the US media does not want people thinking that Mexico is safe. They want to sensationalize it as much as they can for ratings, and you know, we would also argue for other reasons as well.
And by the way, one of our colleagues who's in Puerto Vallarta, she was live streaming the whole time. Well, not live streaming, she was posting videos the whole time. Vallarta, we did hear kind of like conflicting reports of what was going on in Vallarta. We can tell you Lake Chapala was pretty calm. There was a little bit of vandalism in Joko.
There was one store. I think one store and one bank.
Yeah, and there was a little bit in Chapala, and they blocked the road, which makes sense because those are main highways to Guadalajara. So they had blocked those. Other than that, everything was chill on the lake, and we have friends, colleagues all over the lake we were all checking in on everybody. They're like, nothing going on here in San Antonio, nothing going on in Ajijic, but everybody was home. Basically to stay out of the way. I was saying, they had to do a code red to get everybody out of the way because there was, the military operation turned into a cartel hissy fit, which again, it looks like the governments were prepared for. They knew that was going to happen.
It's what happens. In fact, the same thing. I don't remember if this was because of specifically a hit on one of their people, but I know either last year or the year before that, there was a similar incident where the cartel was, doing damage to property in Tijuana. I wasn't there. I was already in Guadalajara, but it was a similar kind of thing where like they and even the government said, stay in your houses today. And it was like a day or day and a half thing. And then everything returned completely back to normal. They're not taking prisoners. This is not Al-Qaeda.
I equate it to a hurricane in Florida. I grew up in Florida where they have to tell everybody, hey, this is the worst hurricane on the face of the earth, so that everybody stays home and stays out of the way. And then you don't have accidental deaths or collateral damage. Yeah. It was kind of like that, where they were not going after civilians or tourists or any of that. Do not believe that. There's been one report of a civilian who got caught in the crossfire in Tapalpa, which is where it really went down.
Where the operation
that's where the operation was happening. That's where it really went down. But other than that, no civilians harmed, other than obviously the anxiety and the susto, the fear.
Yeah, we were definitely, I wouldn't say we were panicking, but I was like, hey, let's make sure we just lock the doors. Let's make sure we have enough food. Like, we were definitely scared, right? Because we're like, okay, what the hell is going on? And there was very, little access to information either. But that the reality of the situation, and so were our guests. They were a little frightened. In fact, they're Mexicans, but they had come from the U.S. They're living in the U.S. now, and they were coming back here to vacation. And not a super relaxing vacation when you can't really leave the house. Although we have a nice view, as you can see. So maybe they did get to relax a little after all. I don't know. But yeah, it's more the fear, which is what they ultimately want. Of course, they did instill a little bit of fear in people, but Mexicans are also very resilient people, and stuff like this does happen. It's not a frequent thing. This is like a once in every maybe few years kind of thing when
I've
the
had
military
people-
does a big operation.
I've seen people say, well, a lot of our Mexican friends have said they've never seen an operation this big.
Because they
in,
don't
like,
usually go
50
after
because
the
they
leaders.
don't usually do this,
Yep.
right? The Mexican, so that's where people are like, what's going on? Because this is not like a typical thing for the Mexican military or the Mexican government to do what they did on Sunday. So that's like the big question mark. A lot of people have theories of like, well, there's a lot of foreign investment coming into Mexico. The economy is doing really well. Life is starting to get good in Mexico. The World Cup is in Mexico in June, and that, I guess there's incentive to start cleaning things up, right? And then so that's the theory right now that everybody has.
I'm sure that's a big part of it. Yeah.
I'm sure it's a big part of it too, because there's a lot of money in Mexico right now, and there's a lot of money coming to Mexico right now, and Mexico is trying to get on the world stage. And obviously, the whole situation with the organized crime in Mexico, it's not a secret to anybody. That is a stain. And a lot of Mexicans, by the way, are like embarrassed when stuff like this happens, to be clear, because they're like, oh, here they go again, like this one group of people in Mexico making us all look terrible, or making it look like the entire country is a war zone when it's not, or that Mexican people are okay with this stuff and they're not. So the Mexican people themselves, they hate it when stuff like this happens. And then they hate it when, a lot of the news, or a lot of it turns into fake news or sensationalism, which is what we're seeing in a lot of U.S.
even
and
in
European
the
news.
actual so-called legitimate news stations. Even there, it's not just social media.
They're still replaying videos that have been debunked as fake on major news networks in the United States and Europe. So they hate it when that stuff happens, because it puts a stain on Mexico. And Mexico is a wonderful country. The people are amazing. It's terrible that they have to deal with this. And it's a country with so much to offer. And Mexico is kind of like on this big precipice of change,
and being a global superpower,
and trying to position itself to be a global superpower. So that's probably incentive to start doing operations like this. I don't know, we're not in their brains, we have no idea. All that we're being told by our Mexican friends is that they've never seen anything like this. They've never seen the government or the military do anything like what they did on Sunday.
And I don't think they've seen blockades this big either. Usually if there's a little blockade on the roads by these cartels, or if there's they're burning a business or doing something like that, it's usually isolated to like a small, either a town or a city. Like it has happened in Cancun before, but never in like the really touristy areas. They keep those safe, and it's usually isolated. It's a much bigger response. It's a response on this scale, also because of the person that the government actually captured, which, like Amanda said, they never really do. One of the things that we've been getting asked a lot though is like, is Mexico still safe? How do you feel about the safety here? My opinion is that, and this is from everything I've seen, and I've lived in Mexico for a total of almost 6 years now at different points in my life, and I've never really felt particularly unsafe here. I mean, I'm trying to think of even an instance, and I felt more unsafe like at different points in time in like downtown San Jose, California, or San Francisco, or LA, than I have ever in Mexico. And I'm like actually struggling to even find a time where I felt unsafe or threatened or anything of that nature. And in general, like the people here, like Amanda said, they're very friendly. There is some of that organized crime, but that exists in the United States too. And the other thing that exists,
this particular group was operating in 39 countries.
All over the world.
All over the world.
And the other thing that exists in the US that you don't see here are the mass shootings and just like mass casualty events with a bunch of innocent people there. Like that doesn't happen here. It's unheard of. Like when Mexicans hear stories about how children are shot in schools in the US, or how There's like these crazy mass shootings and political assassinations and things like that. Even they're like, wait, what do you mean? Because that's not a common thing here. Yeah, I mean, the occasional governor or somebody does get taken out in Mexico. That happens occasionally, rarely, right? But the mass shootings with massive casualties where it's just a bunch of innocent people involved.
The only one I've heard of was like 2 months ago at a soccer game. I forgot where in Mexico, but they were all involved in the cartel. It was a shootout between cartel security.
Yeah.
So when you do hear about mass shootings like that, there's elements of organized crime.
They're mainly going
involved in
after
it.
each other.
Yeah.
But in the U.S., like you don't know if you're going. God forbid you go into a movie theater and there's a guy there with unloading a machine gun. Like things like that don't happen here. So I generally do feel a lot more safe. The other thing, and I'm not saying
I'm
that.
just still shocked at how well coordinated the response was.
Yeah.
Shannon's saying we love it here. They are very competent and didn't need or want the USA in here. They did share. It came out that all the United States did was share some intelligence. That was it. But this was mostly the Mexican military that did it. I guess kudos to them.
Mexico has a very good military.
Yeah.
It's just that up until now they've not really wanted to use it.
They've never done this. They've never
also because it's
it.
it's a very difficult battle. It's a difficult situation because the cartels here are so powerful. I mean, maybe if we do a whole video on this, we can put in some footage. But if you just look at like some of the tanks and things that they have, I mean, you look at the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación and their armored cars and military camo gear and RPGs and like. They don't use it again. They don't use this on people. When they do go battle, it's basically with either other cartels
or
for territory
government.
or with the government. But they've got a literal small army. So it's not like the government of Mexico can just move in and say, all right, we're just going to wipe them out. Maybe in 5 years, that's possible. But our theory is until the demand issue is fixed in the U.S. and until people stop consuming illegal drugs in the US, there's never really going to be a permanent solution where there's no more cartel here. The best we can hope for until then is perhaps that it's going to be more fragmented, that there aren't going to be such power strongholds where they're moving drugs into the US, but they're not doing it at a rate that is what we're seeing right now. They aren't as violent as they're now in some places. There's not as much warring between the different groups. And also that they are not involved in a lot of these other businesses, which are arguably much worse, like extortion rackets and human trafficking.
Yeah, so that's actually an important part here that I forgot to mention. So basically what's come out is that not only was this a big blow to the management of this particular group of organized crime, but this is where the United States has been involved and Mexico as well, is that they've been sanctioning and shutting down businesses that they believe that this organized crime group was using in both countries in order to lavar dinero, launder money. So the way that it's being presented, it's like we took out basically the C-suite of this particular organized crime group. The guy has no successor. So what's probably going to happen is the power that they had is going to be basically broken up and it's going to go into smaller groups and things like that. At which point there is extra military right now in Jalisco, which they announced last night. They're like, code red lifted. Everybody go open your businesses. There's extra military and law enforcement everywhere. We haven't seen anything since Sunday. Everything's good. That's what they're telling us. So businesses are opening again and things. But they've also been taking a lot of big financial hits or financial blows.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason that the U.S. declared them a terrorist organization, so that they go after their finances. And do I think that they're a terrorist organization? Sure. The difference, though, between what I would say is maybe a pure, terrorist organization, like a lot of these groups that we're seeing in the Middle East, like Hamas, like Al-Qaeda, is that a lot of those groups are focused on instilling terror on the people, and that's their main goal, versus the cartel is a business, and that's their primary goal. Do they commit heinous acts and murders and civil unrest and terror? Occasionally, yes, they do. And, violence is part of the way that they enforce their own rules of the game of their business. but that's not their primary purpose.
Their primary purpose is this.
The primary purpose is money. It's not to instill a political ideology, to go after a religion that they don't agree with, like a lot of these other groups. So do I think the designation is fair? I mean, sure, but I think that you have to look at everything with context and with a grain of salt and understand the nuance in it. That these aren't just people that are, going into tourist hotels and shooting them up. That's not a thing.
We're from Tampa, Florida, then 2 years in San Antonio, Texas. So if shit hit the fan in the U.S., we could get out quickly to Mexico. I mean,
yeah, I mean, you maybe could. I know you mentioned. She mentioned she was in Zapopan now. Yeah. I don't know if you're already living in Mexico permanently, or you're just down here kind of part time. But here's what I will say to people that think, on the flip side of this, because there is a lot of talk about how bad things are going in the U.S., which is also my response to when people ask me, is it safe in Mexico, or do you still want to live in Mexico? Yeah, absolutely. Because when you compare it to the economic instability, civil unrest, protests, riots, ICE kidnappings, God knows what else is happening there. There's just I would say it's a much more unstable situation in the U.S. But to address Shannon's point, yes and no. Yes, maybe you'll be able to escape to Mexico when shit really hits the fan in the U.S. And if you're not, living here permanently already, or you don't have your residency already, that's okay. Yeah, she said she's never going back. Yeah, exactly. And I'm assuming you have your temporary or permanent residence already. But for people that don't already have residence in Mexico and you do want a plan B, you want to have that plan B before shit actually hits the fan in the U.S. Because guess who's going to close their borders if things really go south? No pun intended.
They're already doing it. Because remember, you were supposed to travel this week for a conference in California. He canceled it, thank God. But they're already doing it. Like in the United States right now, I guess there's some sort of other government shutdown going on, and they shut down TSA PreCheck, and they shut down global entry. So they didn't have to do that because it doesn't take a lot of staff to have TSA PreCheck or global entry. If you don't know what global entry is, explain global entry for those who do not know.
Global entry is a program where you give them access to kind of more of your background history, addresses, whatever, and then
it's great for customs.
Yeah, it's great for customs, although you do consent to a lot of violations of privacy, arguably. But basically, you're able to get approved as being a low threat person that's a U.S. citizen, and then you're able to go through the security and customs lines at land borders and airports, and sometimes seaports as well, a lot faster than the general population. So those programs are shut down. That's a good point as well, Amanda, which is that the U.S. is already, they had talks about doing away with dual citizenship. So you basically, if you're a U.S. citizen and you have another passport, and I got to go soon, I got an appointment.
You have a dentist appointment.
But if you have two passports, you're going to have to renounce one citizenship to stay a U.S. citizen. Otherwise, they're going to strip you of that citizenship. They're pulling back on some of the programs like that whenever they can, like during these government shutdowns, to just make it more difficult for people to go overseas. But my initial point was actually about Mexico closing their borders. Like they're already making residency and moving here more difficult. If things were really as bad as a lot of these sensationalist media people say that they are, then Mexico's requirements for residents would not be going up and up and up every year. Now, as a retired individual, just one person needs almost $9,000 per month. I think, well, actually a couple. They're asking for about $9,000 per month in pension just to be able to get permanent residence in Mexico. So if you're not making almost six figures in retirement income or pension, or you don't have at least a little over $250,000 US in your bank account, then you're not even able to get permanent residency in Mexico. So that's a sign that it's actually becoming a much stronger and much more desirable country to move to, it's going the other way around.
Which is why some people think that now suddenly the government and the Mexican military did what they did on Sunday, which again, most of our Mexican friends have said they've never done anything like this.
Yeah, and I want to circle back around to what we were discussing with Shannon about, like the, hey, maybe my family or my friends or whoever else can just hop across the border to Mexico if things really go bad in the U.S. Mexico's going to close their borders if that happens. If it really gets that bad, they are able, just like the U.S. has done, to close their borders and say you need a visa to come here, you need to have residence or whatever. And the people that have residence are going to be able to get in, and everybody else is going to be stuck in the U.S. I look at the U.S. right now like a big boiling frog situation in that, and you can keep live streaming if you want after I bounce.
I gotta go cook.
Yeah, but if you look at the situation right now, it's really a boiling frog situation where it keeps getting more and more difficult to everybody except the top 1% of the top 1% in the U.S. And there's a lot of socialist policies that are coming into play, especially in cities like New York and states like California. There's a lot of weird stuff happening, and just like you put the frog in the water and it doesn't realize that the water is boiling until the frog is dead. Well, unfortunately, that's the situation right now with the U.S. and Western Europe and Canada. And so I really encourage those of you that have been looking at getting your residence in Mexico. It is absolutely safe here, and there's no better time to do it other than yesterday, right? So you can book a call with us at entrepreneurexpat.com/consult. We'll have links to that as well as to some other resources and free things, goodies below this video here. You can check some of that out. But I highly encourage you, if you have been thinking about moving to Mexico, this is actually a sign of good things to come.
Because they're actually doing
something about organized crime. The government's taking action. I think it's going to take a while. I think maybe in the next 4, 5, 6 years, things are going to really start to become a little bit more controlled in that sense, especially as the U.S. I think is going to have policies.
A lot of Mexicans told us that too. Like, obviously there's mixed feelings because it created a lot of chaos, but a lot of Mexicans also did tell us like, hey, finally they're doing something, finally. So that's another opinion that we have heard. And again, a lot of people just think it's because there's a lot of Mexico's improving as a country and they got to get rid of some problems.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're trying to get rid of some problems. So Shannon, come out to Lake Chapala and come visit us at our office.
Yep.
Since you are in Zapopan, just do a day trip out to Lake Chapala. We'd be happy to meet you and connect with you. But we got to go because Justin actually has a dentist appointment because everything's open again in our area. I got to go cook and feed the rescue puppy. And we got to go get some appointments for some of our clients, consulate appointments, and just get back to all the emails and DMs and messages we've gotten in the last 24 hours. We just wanted to let you know we're safe. Everything's fine. So informative here in Millennia. We know there are drug lords live. We don't just go to their hood. Yeah,
exactly.
That's the
You're not going to go to the ghetto if you're in LA.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same sort of thing.
Jimmy
says it's so bad here in the US. I'd rather take my chances in Mexico. Absolutely. And that's,
Mexico got the chaos under control in 24 hours.
Where have you seen that in the US?
And a lot of people, our Canadian friends, like, where have you seen that in the US and Canada in the last few years, that they get a city under control in 24 hours? Yeah. These guys got a whole country.
So connect with us, come visit our office. We're right here near Jocotepec at the base of Senderos del Lago. There's a little plaza there. That's where you'll find our office. We'll have some more information about that soon. Come visit us. Come meet us in person, stop by for a coffee, we can chat, book a call with us at entrepreneurexpat.com/consult, or check out all the other free resources below this video. We'd love to chat more and help you with your journey, whether it's to Mexico or somewhere else. And yes, things are actually going to become better now, not worse. This is a sign of good things to come. Thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate having you here, and we'll see y'all again very soon.